Antarctica does not like those who come to it with arrogant confidence. She is a cold, ruthless master who does not forgive mistakes. Our research team, funded by the American National Science Foundation, came here with ideas about progress, technologies and discoveries that supposedly will help humanity. But even the most precise instruments and the latest technology here are powerless against one thing: time and eternal emptiness. I'm Jack Harris, the expedition leader. I have dozens of scientific publications and dozens of hours on Arctic stations, but Antarctica is something else entirely. At the start, I thought that ice is just water in a frozen state, a static substance that can be studied. Now I know, the ice here is a book. A book that no one should read. Our camp is a tiny oasis in endless whiteness, a set of geodesic domes wrapped in thermal blankets and electrified by the constant wind. The wind here isn't just wind, it sounds like a whisper, a sound that bites into your skin and makes you doubt your sanity. The first day was a normal one, installing equipment, collecting snow and ice samples. But in the evening we got the feeling that we were not the first. In the distance, out of sight, in the vast expanse of snow, something was breathing. I felt it as I lay in my bunk, and the dark mind seemed to whisper, "You shouldn't be here." In the morning, one of our biologists, Mason, noticed strange changes in the ice crystals on the north slope. The crystals glowed with a strange, almost unnatural light. We went out for a checkup. What we thought was light turned out to be a reflection, or something more. A network of cracks appeared on the surface of the ice, arranged in geometric patterns like a manuscript written not by a human hand, but by nature itself. Mason, usually a skeptic, looked at the patterns with concern. "These aren't natural cracks," he said softly, "they're code. I do not know what it means, but I think it warns." At that moment, I realized that something was starting to happen to us that goes beyond science. It was a warning, but from whom? And about what? Later, we found an old note in an abandoned research station not far from us, covered in frost and half obliterated by time. It spoke of the voice of ice, an ancient presence that knows no time or space, and that awakens when humanity is too curious. Something froze inside me. It wasn't just a scientific discovery, it was the beginning of a story that could break us all. After finding the mysterious note, the atmosphere in the camp changed. We, a team of scientists from all over America, accustomed to stress and extreme conditions, suddenly felt too vulnerable. Each of us tried to find a logical explanation for what was happening. But Antarctica doesn't recognize logic. Instead of it, something else comes, subtle and quiet, like the whisper of the wind, which bursts into consciousness and does not let go. That day, I decided to go with Mason and our engineer, Emily, to explore the area near the cracks. Our instruments recorded strange anomalies, fluctuations in the magnetic field, unstable vibrations in the ice structure that could not be explained. As we approached, the air became so cold that time seemed to slow down. We were standing on the edge of the crack, and there was a blackness in the depths under our feet, from which came a faint sound, something like breathing. Mason tried to record it on a tape recorder, but the sound faded in and out into a whisper, unintelligible, as if in an ancient language that was not meant for human understanding. "Do you hear that?" Emily asked, her voice trembling even though she was always cool. I nodded, feeling a chill creep through my mind as well as my body. Suddenly, the ice beneath our feet began to shake. We retreated, but only just in time. The crack widened, like a living thing opening its mouth. A faint light rose from the depths, faint but pulsing. It resembled the heart beating in the chest of an ice giant. And then I saw it. A shadow, or rather a silhouette, broken and unsteady, as if made of mist and cold. He held up a hand, not a gesture, but a warning. At that moment, I realized, we became part of something much more than just a scientific expedition. Something ancient and immortal is watching us. And it's not going to let go. Emily recoiled, her lips whispering, "We need to leave." But I knew we were already too deep. We have entered a game whose rules are unknown, and the stakes are much higher than life. In the evening after our expedition to the cracks, the atmosphere in the camp became tense, as if the ice on Antarctica had begun to penetrate the very fabric of our consciousness. We tried to collect our thoughts, but the voices, the whispers wouldn't stop. I sat down in my dome, opened the audio files Mason had recorded, and tried to make sense of it. The sounds were incoherent, but they had a rhythm to them, like an ancient language made of wind and ice cracking. My thoughts suddenly drifted far away from science, to the philosophy of time and being. What if ice isn't just frozen water? What if this is the memory of the world, its fabric, where the past, present and future are intertwined in an infinite knot? Suddenly, my laptop screen flickered and a distorted image appeared, something similar to a face, but distorted, as if erased by time. I recoiled. My heart was beating faster. And then I heard a voice, not from outside, but inside me, in my head. It was quiet, barely perceptible, but commanding. You have heard the call. You have become the keeper of secrets hidden in the ice. But do you know the price? I tried to answer, but the words stuck in my throat. That voice didn't demand an answer, it was a warning. At that moment, I realized that science is only a thin layer of understanding, the surface skin of the universe. Below, the abyss, where the unknown reigns. In desperation, I wrote down my first warning, addressed to those who would come after us. Antarctica is not just about ice and wind. This is a gateway through which something ancient breaks through. We are only pilgrims on the threshold of the abyss. And if you awaken it, the world will never be the same. I couldn't sleep that night. The whispers grew louder, but now I listened to them not from the outside, but from the inside, like the echoes of my own soul. Morning greeted us not with light, but with a lingering gray haze. The wind didn't seem to abate for a second, ripping sounds from the domes as if the ice itself was protesting against our presence. We gathered around the instruments as the anomaly reading steadily increased. Mason noted with alarm that the magnetic fields around the cracks formed a maze-like structure. Not physical, but energetic, like a network that connects points in time and space. It's not just ice. It's an ancient pattern, he said, holding up the radar images. I'm not sure we can figure it out. We decided to send a drone inside the crack itself to try to explore its depths, where it is impossible for a person to descend. Video from the drone's camera froze on footage where the camera penetrates a frozen tunnel. A strange glow flows along the walls, a blue, cold light, like the bioluminescence of ice. But then something inexplicable happened, the image began to distort, the camera seemed to penetrate the layers of time. We saw shadows, not living things, but rather impressions of the past, or perhaps the future. And then the screen went blank. There was an oppressive silence in the camp. This silence wasn't empty, it screamed. I thought again that we had encountered not just ice and cold, but an ancient memory of the planet, hiding not only knowledge, but also fears that could tear the mind apart. The ice maze is not just about geometry. This is a symbol. A sign that someone or something is watching and waiting. We were standing on a threshold beyond which there was no light, no hope, only an abyss ready to swallow up those who dared to look too deeply. That night, sleep eluded me like the ice under my feet, slippery and dangerous. Images swirled in my head, as if the memories were not mine, but someone else's, coming from the very depths of the ice. Visions appeared suddenly, ancient civilizations that had disappeared under the ice, symbols etched into crystals, faces distorted with fear and despair. I woke up in a cold sweat, with the feeling that time was being torn apart around me. Mason said that he also had strange dreams that could not be explained rationally. Emily began to notice more and more often that she felt the presence of something invisible, as if watching us. We were not just researchers, we became carriers of someone else's memory, someone else's fear. One night I woke up to a noise, someone or something was walking around the camp. I stepped out into the freezing cold and saw shadows gliding across the snow, having neither the shape nor the shadow of a real one. It's not just a trick of the imagination, I said to myself, we're hooked on something that shouldn't be touched. But it was too late to retreat. In every breath of wind, in every crack of ice, there was an ancient warning. We stood at the edge of the world, where the lines of life and death intersected, and even the strongest mind began to succumb to the dark voices of the abyss. From the moment the shadows appeared around the camp, the atmosphere changed forever. It was as if we were no longer just scientists, but prisoners of the unknown. Each morning brought new signs, cracks in the ice grew deeper, and patterns like writing appeared on the surface, incomprehensible and alien. One morning, Emily found frozen prints on her hands, not human ones. They were too large and curved, like the footprints of creatures that had never set foot on the ground. I felt that we were on the edge between reality and something ancient that lay beneath the ice and was now beginning to wake up. I decided to go down into one of the deepest cracks to try to understand the nature of what we are seeing. I took with me only the most necessary things, a camera, sensors, and a weak flashlight. The descent was slow and dangerous, the walls of the crevice closing in more tightly, and the cold seeped into my bones. It wasn't just the lack of light that greeted me down there, it was a silence that couldn't be described. In the silence, I could hear a faint but distinct pulse, like a heart beating in the center of ice. This pulse is a sign that the ice is alive, that there is more to the ice than frozen water. I recorded my feelings on camera and heard a faint whisper in my headphones, a voice that called my name and promised to reveal secrets hidden in eternity. I do not know how long I spent there, in the depths. It seems that the minutes stretched out into hours, and the hours turned into an eternity. When I came to the surface, I realized that I was no longer the same person who had come down. I became the link between the world of the living and the abyss of ice. And now I have to tell the world what I saw. Or at least try. When I returned to the camp after going down into the crack, I immediately felt something change inside me. It wasn't just a physical state, it was as if ice had entered my bloodstream, intertwined with my thoughts, and rewritten my inner world. That night I dreamed of a voice. Not human, but not soulless either, a voice full of ancient wisdom and darkness at the same time. He told me about the cycles of time, about beings who live beyond understanding, beyond light and darkness. We were waiting, the voice whispered, waiting for someone to look into the heart of frozen time. You're the key. You are the host. I woke up in a cold sweat, my heart pounding like it was trying to get out of my chest. But this time the fear wasn't from ignorance, it was from understanding. The idea that ice is not just ice, but a living archive of the universe, that there are hidden entities, that time is only a thin film between worlds, did not give me peace. I started recording everything: sounds, visions, sensations. Each word was an attempt to hold on to something ephemeral before it disappeared. But I also knew that the deeper I went, the closer I got to what was going to swallow me up. The voice was calling, and I was afraid that if I didn't give in, would lose myself, and if I did, I would lose everything else. Yet I knew that to remain silent was to betray those who would come after. Every day the whispers became clearer, and I felt the boundaries of reality begin to thin. The ice around us is not just frozen water, but a thick layer separating the two worlds. The moment when the cracks begin to spread is the moment when the boundary is blurred and we witness something completely different. We have received data that defies any explanation. The anomalies were not just bursts of energy, they had a structure, as if someone or something was sending signals through the thickness of time and space. Our instruments recorded flashes of light similar to auroras, but from deep in the ice, not from the atmosphere. We called it ice breathing, a strange but haunting rhythm, as if the ice lives, breathes, and we can hear it beating. One night the camp was filled with a low hum, and suddenly it was not the sun that rose over the horizon, but something else, a light that should not belong to this world. The sky seemed to tear apart, revealing a rift between realities. In that moment, I realized that we are not just explorers, we have become prisoners of the rift, and each step further is a step into the abyss from which there is no return. The line between life and death in Antarctica was becoming increasingly blurred. After what we saw in the rift light that defies explanation, it became clear, this is not just a natural phenomenon. This is the gate. A gateway to a world where time and space are meaningless. I began to notice that the people around me were changing. Their eyes go blank, as if another entity has taken up residence in them. Mason, who had always been practical and skeptical, now spoke of visions, of ancient voices calling him to the cold depths. Emily, on the other hand, became almost indistinguishable from the shadows we saw. She became more and more withdrawn, looking into the void and whispering words in an unknown language. I knew that we were on the verge of immortality and oblivion at the same time. The gate of ice promises eternal life, but the price is the loss of yourself, the dissolution into an eternity of cold silence. And I wondered, what do we choose? The days and nights merged into one endless time, where the boundaries between me and the world around me began to blur. Antarctica was no longer just a place on the map, it was a living thing, ancient and wise, but cold and pitiless. Mason and Emily's gazes no longer reflected the same people. There was something alien in their eyes, like a flame that does not warm, but devours from the inside out. They spoke of voices and visions that revealed secrets too terrifying for the human mind. I felt an inner fire, resistance, a desire to preserve myself, not to lose myself in this eternal cold. Every crack in the ice felt like a tear in my own soul. One night I went outside the camp, where the wind carried snatches of sound, as if the ice was trying to tell me its story. There, amid the endless whiteness, I saw a glow not like stars, but rather like a smoldering flame inside Leda. It was the heart of Antarctica itself, alive and suffering at the same time. I came closer and heard a whisper. You are the chosen one. But being chosen is a burden. You must decide whether you will allow yourself to be consumed by eternity, or keep your flame. Two forces fought within me, cold and fire, death and life, oblivion and memory. This wasn't just a test of the body, but of the soul. And I realized that my path is a path through the abyss, through ice and fire, through oblivion and light. Ever since I saw the flames inside the ice, I've felt a sense of duality, between light and dark, life and death. This flame is a sign of hope and doom at the same time. It burned inside me, but the cold of Antarctica tried to swallow it up, to calm it, to extinguish it. There were more and more blank stares in our camp. Mason stopped talking, his body was there, but his soul was already disappearing into the vast expanses of ice. More and more often, Emily went into deep trances, as if she were a link between worlds. I began to understand, ice doesn't just hide secrets, it's a storehouse of souls, memories that have been held in perpetual freeze for centuries. And every day this frost is weakening. The abyss is open, and whatever lives there calls us. There was an echo of oblivion in the back of my mind, a call to forget myself, to lose myself in eternity and become part of something infinite but impersonal. I decided to record everything that happens to me, every thought, every whisper, every vision. This was my last attempt to preserve myself, the human in me. But the deeper I delved into this recording, the more I felt that the voice of Antarctica wasn't just speaking to me, it was speaking to those who would one day read these lines. Warns you. Or calling. As the nights grew longer, the darkness in the camp became almost palpable. I was increasingly aware of a presence, something invisible but persistent. This shadow seemed like a living memory of Antarctica, and it seemed to know everything, our fears, our desires, and most importantly, our weaknesses. One night, when the blizzard was at its peak, I was left alone in the main dome. Snow swirled around them, and the world seemed paralyzed by time. And then I heard not just a whisper, but a real conversation. The shadow spoke in a voice like the echo of a long-forgotten wind. You've come a long way, human. You see things that weren't meant for your eyes. But know this, knowledge is not a release, but a burden. Everything here isn't just ice. It is a mirror that reflects the fears of your kind, your deepest doubts. I asked her what she wanted from me. The answer was simple and scary. We are the memory of the planet, and we are immortal. We store and destroy. You are a guest in the eternal temple of ice. Choose peace or madness. The shadow's words penetrated my very heart, and I realized that our understanding of the world is only a surface, under which lies something that is impossible to understand and even more difficult to experience. After talking to the shadow in a blizzard at night, I felt my mind start to crack at the seams. The words were not just a riddle, they were the key that opened the door to the darkest corners of the mind. Everything I knew about the world stopped making sense. Reality became liquid, like ice in the sun, and I began to see its contours blurring, giving way to something alien. We are only glimpses of light in the endless darkness, said an inner voice. Our perception is a narrow opening in the vast ocean of being. These days, I started to lose track of time. Time and space seemed to be one spiral that was contracting and expanding at the same time. I saw visions past, present, and future mixed together like a torn-up movie. My mind struggled to understand, but it encountered something that defied explanation. The entities that lived in the depths of the ice were neither alive nor dead, they were something beyond. Every breath I took was a challenge to maintain my sanity in a world where perception itself was collapsing. One night, when the wind was whistling so hard that it seemed as if Antarctica itself was being exhaled with a cold and merciless breath, I felt the ice under the camp begin to vibrate, barely perceptibly, but enough to make my heart beat faster. I stepped outside and saw the cracks in the ice shining as if there was a fire burning inside them, cold and pulsing, as if the very heart of the planet had been awakened. It wasn't just a natural phenomenon, it was an awakening. An ancient consciousness hidden beneath the ice has awakened after centuries of silence. An expectant silence filled the air. I heard a call that was neither words nor thoughts, but a sensation that permeated every cell of my body. I realized that I was part of something much bigger than I could have imagined. And that my choice now depends not only on my fate, but the fate of the whole world. At that moment, I realized that our ice house is not a prison, but a temple, and only through the trial of fire and ice can you get to the truth. Ice and fire merged into one in an eternal dance that wove destinies and times. I stood on the edge, feeling something both new and ancient grow inside me, the realization that I was no longer just a human being. I became the keeper of the secrets of Antarctica, the link between the worlds. Mason and Emily's farewells were silent and painful, they were gone, lost in the cold, part of the eternal peace, part of the eternal memory of ice. I was supposed to come back. Returning meant more than just a trip back to the surface, it was an ascent from the depths of oblivion, crossing the threshold of an abyss where every memory could become a trap. When I emerged from the icy void, the world seemed different. The air was thick and filled with the sounds of life, but I knew that there would always be a cold void inside me, an echo of ancient ice. I have brought a warning with me, don't try to open the gate that has been sealed for centuries. Where ice stores memory, fear also lurks, and not everyone can stand the truth. We live on the edge, between light and dark, between knowledge and madness. And it depends only on us which side humanity chooses. My story is not an adventure story, but a warning. Because there are secrets that are best left forgotten.